The book of James, chapter 1 and verse 8 states, "A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways." What if the instability this scripture speaks of is not about indecision, but about two rulers fighting for the same inner throne? What if the true war you have been feeling is not outside of you, but between two versions of you? The constructed self shaped by wounds, conditioning, trauma, fear, ego, memory, and the world's illusions, and the divine self, the original blueprint, the spark breathed into you before you enter that body. What if the entire journey of your life is about discovering who is ruling? And what if every moment of chaos, heartbreak, confusion, anxiety, and contradiction is a symptom of a divided throne? Because here's the hidden truth. You cannot ascend while the counterfeit self still holds the scepter. You cannot walk in power while your inner temple hosts two kings. You cannot manifest the kingdom while the egoic ruler sits where the divine was meant to sit. This is the war the mystics spoke of. This is the battle the Kabbalists mapped. This is the tension the Hermetists encoded in the principle of polarity. This is the conflict Paul felt when he said, "The good that I would do, I do not." Two selves, two thrones, one temple. And the universe is waiting to see which ruler you will enthrone. Every ancient mystery school taught this truth, but always through veiled language, because they understood that the temple within man is the most sacred battleground in existence. In Kabbalah, the divided throne becomes the tension between Tiferet, the heart, and Yesod, the ego's projected field. In Egypt, it is Horus wrestling set inside the human psyche. In Hinduism, it is Arjuna's battlefield, not a literal war, but a war within consciousness itself. Even Jesus encoded this mystery, where he says, "No man can serve two masters." The masters were never God and money. That was the outer parable. The inner meaning was always, you cannot serve the divine self and the egoic self at the same time. One must yield, one must bow, one must descend so the other can ascend. This is not punishment. It is spiritual physics, where two frequencies fight for dominance in one vessel. The vessel fractures. This is why scripture did not say the man is occasionally unstable, but unstable in all his ways. His relationships, his thoughts, his emotional states, his manifestations, his purpose, sensitivity, his discernment, his entire field. Because two kings cannot sit on the same throne without tearing the kingdom apart. Every tradition names them differently. In Christianity, it is known as the battle between the spirit versus flesh. In death psychology, this is the higher self versus the shadow self. In Egyptian metaphysics, this is the Ka versus the Ba. This is the Atman versus the Ahamkara in Hinduism. This is Neshama versus Nefesh in Kabbalah. And in modern metaphysics, this is the quantum self versus material ego, all pointing to the same root conflict. The part of you that remembers versus the part of you that forgets. The remembering self is divine. The forgetting self is conditioned. When both try to rule, your energy splits, your decisions fracture, your destiny delays. This is double-mindedness, not as a flaw of thought, but as a fracture of identity. The divine self is ancient. It carries memories stretching beyond incarnations. It holds your purpose, your agreements, your soul contracts, your gifts, your encoded wisdom. The manufactured self is recent. It began the day the world touched you. It was shaped by your schooling, your culturing, your parenting, by your religion, by survival, by unhealed wounds, and by fear-based systems. One self came from eternity. The other came from earth. One knows, the other guesses. One remembers, the other reacts. One operates from truth, the other from trauma. When people say, I don't feel like myself, they're not wrong. They are feeling the presence of the false ruler sitting on a throne that doesn't belong to him. In esoteric anatomy, the false self rules from the lower chakras, from survival, from security, identity, tribal programming. It rules from fear. The divine self, however, rules from the higher centers, from intuition, from love, from insight, from purpose, and from cosmic identity. When energy rises through the central channel but meets the divided throne, you experience conflict, mixed signals, emotional contradictions, cycles of self-sabotage, fear of ascension, confusion in your calling, delayed manifestation. You experience an internal civil war. Your consciousness becomes unstable in all its ways because two rulers are fighting for control of the same kingdom. The body is not just biology, it is a multi-layered temple. At the root, the ego claims ownership. It makes statements such as, I must protect myself, I must defend myself, I must define myself. At the sacral, it clings to identity, to desire, to attachment. At the solar plexus, it demands control and survival. Meanwhile, the divine self whispers from above, rise, rise into the heart, rise into compassion, rise into intuition, rise into purpose, rise into remembrance. The false king pulls downward, the divine king pulls upward. Your spine becomes the battlefield, your aura becomes the territory, your breath becomes the weapon, and your heart becomes the gate. This is the war Jacob wrestled with in the night. This is the ladder he saw, angels ascending and descending, symbolizes the movement of consciousness between the lower and higher realms inside a human being. This is why God renamed him Israel, he who struggles with the divine and prevails. In drama theory, this is known as ego splitting. In Jungian terms, this is the self versus the persona. In esoteric Christianity, it is the old man versus the new creation. Each part fights for dominance because one was shaped by fear and the other was shaped by God. And until the throne is unified, your inner world remains a battleground. The egoic self speaks through memory, makes statements like, don't try, remember what happened the last time. Don't trust, remember who hurt you. Don't expand, remember when you failed. Don't love, remember how it broke you. The divine self, however, speaks through revelation. It says statements like, you are not who you were. You are more than what happened. You are called to rise. You are capable of becoming. You are the light the darkness fears. The ego speaks from the past. The divine speaks from the future. Double-mindedness is the tug-of-war between memory and destiny. This is why God told Israel, "Choose ye this day whom you will serve." The battle is not a moral one. It is a metaphysical election, with the question being, which ruler will you give your narrative to? The Kabbalists teaches, where two opposing poles remain unreconciled, chaos persists. Your consciousness is a field. Two frequencies cannot dominate the same field. One must be transmuted, the lower raised into the higher. The ego dissolves into the essence. This is alchemy, not turning lead into gold, but turning the lower self into the divine self. Hermeticism teaches that all transformation occurs through polarity, through vibration, through rhythm and correspondence. The ego vibrates at survival frequency. The divine self vibrates at creation frequency. One reacts, one creates. One clings, one channels. One fears, one knows. The alchemist does not destroy the ego. He refines it into a servant of the higher will. Just as in Egypt, Pharaoh could not enter the inner chambers of the temple until he dethroned his inner Set and enthroned his inner Horus. Ascension is impossible without inner enthronement. The question is no longer, what should I do? But who is sitting on my throne right now? Is it fear or calling? Is it memory or destiny? Is it conditioning or consciousness? You cannot rise if the wrong ruler holds the crown. Now here's how you know who is ruling. The false ruler shows up as hesitation, overthinking, emotional volatility, people-pleasing, self-sabotage, fear of abandonment, fear of expansion. The divine ruler shows up as clarity without anxiety, conviction without arrogance, movement without push, intuition without confusion, confidence without comparison, love without fear, purpose without panic. One drains you, the other expands you. One chains you, the other liberates you. And recognition is the first step to enthronement. Here are 5 directives to help with throne unification. 1. Identify the ruler. Pause daily and ask, which self is speaking right now? The wounded one or the divine one? The voice of the ego is loud, urgent and afraid. The voice of the divine is calm, knowing and still. 2. Withdraw power from the false throne. Attention is currency. Energy flows where your attention goes. Starve the narratives that keep your ego enthroned. 3. Re-enthrone the divine self. This is not affirmation. It is reclamation. Declare your origin consciously. Say, I come from light. My decisions must reflect my lineage. 4. Integrate the shadow without surrendering to it. The shadow is not your enemy. It is the untrained soldier in your inner kingdom. Bring it home, but do not let it rule. 5. Act from the self you want to become. Every decision is a coronation. Every choice crowns one ruler and dethrones the other. Your inner temple was never meant to host 2 kings. One will always overthrow the other. The false king will rule your fears. The divine king will rule your future. The false king will preserve your wounds. The divine king will reveal your wings. The false king will keep you in cycles. The divine king will usher you into destiny. The question is not, will one rule, but which one will rule you? Choose your enthronement. Choose your ruler. Choose your identity. This is the sacred curriculum. Lesson complete. Now remember who you are.